I would like to talk to you today about an issue that many martial artists experience. The issue has to do with the front leg raises. Okay, very often when someone does front leg raises, the foot goes up like this. On the other hand, sometimes people have it this way on one leg, and when they do it on the other leg, this happens. Notice the difference. On one side, my foot is squared. On the other side, the outer border is pointing forward. This is called the inversion. Okay? Now, we have to look at a number of things. Why it's happening. We have to look at how it could be a potential problem and how to fix it. Number one, why is this happening? Very often when you do a leg raise at a low distance, this does not happen. But as the leg goes a little bit higher, okay, the outer border turns forward. Okay, now what happens here in reality, without seeing it, the person is making an attempt to raise the leg and keep the foot vertical. But what's not being seen is the fact that the hip turned out. Okay, so if you try to make the leg normal again, and you take the foot and you invert it, you'll notice now that the leg is pointing out to the side. I did not move my hip, did not rotate my hip. All I did was this. So essentially, when the hip turns out, but in your mind you're trying to make your foot go straight up and remain vertical without your foot going out like that, then we have the inversion, which is this. Okay, so that answers the first question. Why is that sometimes I do the leg raise and it goes up like that, and sometimes I do the leg raise and it goes up like that. Usually people can do one leg with a foot like this, and then on the other leg the outer border is forward. Okay, so the reason once again is the rotation of the hip. The hip tends to rotate out. When the hip rotates out, for majority of the people, it's a little bit easier to bring the leg higher due to both strength and flexibility concerns. So the leg would turn out. Okay, so now we know why it's happening. So if you ever do a leg raise and your leg is like this, that's why it's happening. If you see that somebody who tried to bring the leg as high as possible forcefully, very often that happens. Okay, now why is that a potential problem? That is a potential problem because when you throw a kick, I'm talking about a front kick, a snap front kick, or a push or a jab front kick. What happens is, at the point of impact, the leg begins to turn out. Okay? As it turns out, to keep it vertical, see, I'm not moving my hip. But if I want to keep the foot vertical, I have to invert. So here, the impact is with the outside of the ball of the foot. So very often this small area takes all the impact, especially if you try to go through the target and the knee is extended. Okay, and we don't want to hit, so a front kick and ended up just hitting with this. You don't feel it. The reason very often you don't feel it because once you hit and the foot goes farther into the target, once this side gives of the target, this side makes contact. But sometimes that does not happen if you strike a target such as chest, and the whole thing goes onto the outside. We do not want that, of course. We want the whole kick to make contact with the whole ball of the foot if possible, for stronger impact and less chance of injury. Okay. However, if you are used to throwing kicks higher than you can, or you're used to throwing leg raises or lifting your leg forward and the leg turn out, that's how you're going to kick. Okay, so that could be a potential problem. Okay, and this is especially true for people who throw their front kick with a supporting leg forward, who do not turn the supporting leg out a little bit. Okay, so now how do we correct that? A number of things we can do. I'm going to sit down now and talk about that. Number of things we can do. Number one, when you stretch, It doesn't matter how flexible you are, even if you can just do this. Try to keep it vertical, but not only vertical, try to keep the foot squared, okay? Do not invert, do not allow just this outer border to go forward. For a lot of people, very often you would see people stretch like this. Well, yeah, if the legs come out, very often rotation out of the hips allow for a little bit farther stretch. So you may be normally here, you do this, you can go forward a little bit. If all you're thinking about is, I gotta reach my toes, I gotta reach my toes, and you don't know that you're compensating in a bad way, you will do that. Okay? And this very often goes together with slightly bending the knees, and of course you're gonna go forward. Try not to do that. I'm talking about stretching one leg or both legs, any kind of hamstring stretch, the static stretches now, or even if you make them dynamic, try to keep it this way. Do not let this border go forward. Okay, obviously do not let the leg to fall out to the side. Keep it vertical, keep it this way. Okay, so after a while get used to this. Number one. Number two, what you can do here is this. Notice that if you look at my knees here, my knees are slightly out to the side, but the legs are vertical. Here the feet are vertical. Okay, so if I'm gonna move my foot, my knee is gonna have to rotate in. Okay, you can try that at home and you will see what happens. Okay, so what we're gonna do, you're gonna do this for this. You can do it for both sides, but usually it's done for the side that gives you the problem. The side that once you begin to lift the leg, instead of going up like this, it goes like that. See what happens? So you would take that leg, put it over the other leg. Okay, and you would take the inner border of both feet and push them forward. Okay, so inner border of both feet. This is the inner border here. This is the inner border here. The goal is to bring them both forward. It's called inversion. Okay, try to keep both legs straight. Okay, both forward. What you're gonna feel is you're gonna feel a little bit of a stretch here. Okay, you can do that for a while. Okay, and then reach forward into your stretch, as always maintaining this position. Okay, so that is to answer the question why sometimes front kicks and leg raises, especially the ones that go higher, cause the leg to invert.